Middle-earth, there was once a grand dwarfen kingdom known as Erebor, nestled within a lonely mountain. This kingdom was incredibly wealthy, but its fortune attracted the attention of a fierce dragon named Smaug. Smaug attacked the mountain, driving out the dwarves and claiming the vast treasure for himself. Among the dwarves who lost everything that day was Thorin Oakenshield, the rightful heir to the Erebor's throne. Thorin grew up haunted by the memory of his lost home and the tremendous hoards of riches, and his life became focused on one goal: reclaiming his kingdom and its treasures. To accomplish this, he gathered a group of loyal companions, and among them was an unlikely member, a simple hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Welcome to my podcast on How Not to Retire, a psychological approach to retiring healthy and wealthy. Episode 25, Thorin Oakenshield, the richest dwarf in the lonely mountain graveyard. Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Richard Himmer. Now, let's get back to our story. Bilbo was not like the dwarves. He had limited interest in gold or jewels, mostly because he had no great need for such riches. He lived a quiet, comfortable life in his home, Bag End, in the peaceful Shire. He valued the simple pleasures, his cozy hobbit hole, good food, he was a foodie, his pipe, and the company of friends. But when Gandalf the wizard knocked on his door one night and invited him to join Thorin's company, Bilbo found himself swept up in a grand adventure. As the journey unfolded, Bilbo's perspective of what truly mattered in life began to change. At first, he was fascinated by the idea of treasure and the adventure itself. But as the challenges mounted, facing trolls, goblins, and the treacherous paths through Mirkwood, Bilbo realized that there were things far more valuable than gold. One of the most significant moments in Bilbo's journey came when he met Gollum, a strange and lonely creature who lived deep within the misty mountains. Gollum was obsessed with a small golden ring he called his precious. This ring, which Bilbo found and took with him, was a powerful object, but it came at a great cost. Gollum's obsession with the ring left him isolated, twisted by greed, and devoid of meaningful relationships. It was a stark warning of what could happen when riches overtake one's life. As Bilbo continued on his journey, he developed deep bonds with the members of Thorin's company. He saved them from danger several times, not for the treasure, mind you, but out of friendship and loyalty. The camaraderie they built, especially in the face of adversity, became more valuable to Bilbo than any treasure could ever be. When the company finally reached the lonely mountain and faced Smaug the dragon, Bilbo had another important realization. Standing before the immense hoard of gold, he saw how Thorin's desire for riches had grown into an obsession, much like Gollum's. Thorin's single-minded pursuit of wealth began to strain his relationship with his friends, the fellow dwarves, and it started to cloud his judgment. The treasure that had once symbolized the restoration of his people's glory now threatened to destroy him. In the end, it wasn't gold that brought peace to Erebor. It was the alliances and friendships forged along the way. Bilbo, who had started the journey as an unassuming hobbit, emerged as a hero, not because of his wealth, but because of his courage, kindness, and the connections he made with others. He learned that true wealth isn't measured in gold coins or jewels, but in the love and time we share or he shared with those who matter most. When Bilbo finally returned to the Shire, he was a changed hobbit. He had brought home a small portion of the treasure, but he no longer saw it as the most important thing in life. Instead, he cherished his peaceful home, the lasting friendships he had formed, and the simple pleasures that had always been his true wealth. Bilbo's journey taught him, and us, that while riches might glitter and tempt, the greatest treasures in life are the relationships we build, the love we give and receive, and the time we spend with those who make our lives meaningful. Thorin and Bilbo's intertwined journeys serve as a powerful reminder that while ambition can drive us, The intangibles of wealth, relationships, love, wisdom, they hold the greatest value in our lives. This podcast serves as a roadmap to achieving a rewarding retirement. Much like Bilbo, some people find creating new adventures away from home quite exciting. Deepening friendships and building new relationships are foremost on others' retirement agendas, while spending more time with family is the prime directive. Contrary to popular belief, amassing millions in your retirement funds isn't a requirement for experiencing abundance. In fact, once your retirement account hits a certain threshold, no amount of increased value tips the scales of happiness, joy, and well-being. The notion of eternally running on the hamster wheel of investment returns, market conditions, and lease agreements has a negative, even detrimental impact on your happiness during retirement. Recent studies indicate that cultivating the right mindset can lead to happiness even with modest financial resources. Moreover, when utilized effectively, increased money can unlock opportunities and it can foster better relationships, and ultimately it contributes to greater overall happiness. So remember, here are two important concepts that you'll discover and that you've heard me mention multiple times in this podcast. One, we each have two key drivers: our need for connection and personal growth. That is hardwired into all of us. And two, accepting that retirement is an exciting new chapter in life instead of an end point. That's where purpose comes in. That's where identity comes in. Imagine walking into your retirement years fueled by a profound sense of purpose, a vibrancy, a wholeness, if you will, a life stage abundant, not with worries about dwindling significance, but with exhilarating prospects for delving into your profound wisdom, expressing your talents, and persistently evolving all the way to your last breath. As much hype as our culture gives to youth, our later seasons promise even sweeter fruit that can only be harvested through years of cultivating meaning, increased social skills, and self-awareness. Remember the first half and the second half of life quote by Richard Rohr. Too often, retirement is viewed as little more than a final career curtain call, trading titles for golf and grandkids. Fulfillment, however, it just runs so much deeper. Previous segments are invaluable in your quest for fulfillment during your retirement years. Remember the yardstick of life, your first 30 years, that's where you're just trying to survive. Then you got your middle 30, from 30 to 60, where you should be thriving. And then the 60 to 90 is where everything should culminate into this wonderful experience of life. Our elder chapters, the 60 to 90, need to be overflowing with legacy building and creativity, developing even deeper relationships, especially those with our children and our grandchildren. So yesterday, when I was preparing for this podcast, I came across some research out of Sweden and China. They analyzed data from the health and retirement area, which is a nationally representative sample of U.S. adults age 50 and above. Okay. More than 10,000 Americans were evaluated on their psychological resilience. So think grit, if you will, their resilience, and their data followed for 12 years. So it's a longitudinal study. And I'm quoting the authors now. Our findings revealed a protective effect of psychological resilience against mortality. So in other words, they're saying that the greater the resilience, the longer the lifespan. Previous research linked psychological resilience with better biological health, but very few studies linked the resilience part, the emotional or the subconscious, the mind part of it. Again, quoting, research has highlighted a potential association between psychological resilience and epigenetic clocks, the authors wrote, meaning that just because mom and dad died early doesn't mean you do. Or just because mom and dad lived long doesn't mean you will. You play a big role. The environment in which you live in, how you understand things, how you process things, that's really where it comes down to. These studies found that people with higher resilience may experience slower aging, which can be seen through modifications to their DNA, which means it can then pass on to future generations. That's what epigenetics is. The epigenetic means it sits on top. It gets acted upon only under certain conditions. So, research published in the International Journal of Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity suggests that the relationship between the mind and body is bidirectional. It goes both ways. Okay, exercising, dieting, and meditation are linked to improved mental resilience, and mentally resilient people tend to partake more in physical activities, dieting, and meditation. The authors said that activities and treatment to improve psychological resilience may reduce all-cause mortality. In other words, it can be a universal issue with you if you understand the importance of mental resilience. So back to our original story. The connection between Thorin and Bilbo and riches and wealth come down to purpose and drive. It's challenging to muster up the energy, courage, or focus to find greater happiness in life when you're depressed. Research is fairly abundant on the connection between identity and purpose, which equals greater longevity and a healthier life, versus a lack of identity and purpose, which leads to depression, anxiety, and higher mortality rates. Just a quick story. I was doing a workshop one night, and two of the people in the workshop were in the medical industry. Both of them were well past a time where they could retire financially, but both said in the workshop that they're not retiring because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. All they can identify themselves is as their medical title. They don't have an identity, therefore they don't have a purpose, and if you don't have a purpose, what are you going to do in retirement? Therefore, the resilience, what you do during the day, your ability to extend life, to increase happiness, to constantly learn, all of that's compromised. So the story of Thorin Oakenshield, this dwarfen king that we initially meet in J.R.R. Tolkien's book, The Hobbit, it illustrates well how the pursuit of money compromises the experience of wealth. Thorin's insatiable lust for gold and power led to the ruin of not only his life, but also the lives of those around him. After the great dragon Smaug was slain by Bard the Bowman, if you remember the movie or you've read the book, Thorin found himself possessing unimaginable wealth, riches, to coin a phrase. The vast halls of Erebor echoed with the clinking of gold, the shimmer of precious gems, and the intoxicating allure of untold riches. The priceless Arkenstone, the source of their perceived power, lay somewhere in this vast treasure trove. And remember, Bilbo had it. He found it. But he didn't say anything. The Arkenstone gave whoever held it the right to summon the 7 armies of the dwarves from across the land who had sworn an oath of allegiance long ago. This is why it was considered a precious gem and a tactical weapon to protect the dwarfen kingdom from invaders. So, as Thorin's riches grew, so did his obsession with accumulating more. His heart became consumed by the glimmering allure of gold. He completely lost sight of the true treasures that lay beyond its grasps. In his relentless pursuit of more gold and riches, Thorin unwittingly shattered the bonds of trust and kinship, a power that transcends even the Arkenstone. The destroyed village of Bard the Bowman, that had played a crucial role in Smaug's demise, hoped for recompense, not just in gold or in monetary compensation, but in the form of unity, of friendship, of trading. Yet, blinded by his own desires, Thorin failed to recognize the importance of nurturing the relationship and sharing his newfound fortune with those who had suffered alongside him. The consequences of Thorin's greed were dire. The village that had slain the ferocious beast found itself in ruins, their lives forever scarred by the repercussions of Thorin's insatiable thirst for wealth. Thorin Oakenshield will forever be remembered as the richest dwarf in the lonely mountain graveyard. This cautionary tale poignantly reminds us that true wealth lies not in accumulating material possessions, but in the richness of our relationships, the love we share, and the time we invest in nurturing those bonds. Thorin's tragic downfall starkly reminds us that pursuing riches at the expense of relationships, think children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters, even parents. When we do that, our existence becomes hollow and devoid of wealth. We may have tons of riches, but we don't have wealth. As we wrap up today's episode, let's reflect on Bilbo Baggins' journey and the lessons he learned about the true nature of wealth. Despite the allure of riches, Bilbo discovered that the most valuable treasures in life were not measured in the gold of the Lonely Mountain, but in the relationships he built with the dwarves and the various people that he ran into along his travels. It's in the love that we share with others and the time we spend with those who matter most. Thorin's obsessive pursuit of wealth led to his downfall. Bilbo, through his courage and kindness, found that true wealth lies in the simple pleasures of life and the connections we nurture along life's journey. This story is our reminder as we plan for retirement. The key to a fulfilling life is not just amassing a lot of money in the stock market. Instead, it's about cultivating meaningful relationships, pursuing personal growth, and finding purpose in every stage of life. Retirement is not the end goal. It's an opportunity to continue flourishing, to deepen connections, and to live with intention and joy. Thank you very much for joining me in this episode on how not to retire. Remember, true abundance in your retirement years comes not just from what's in your bank account, but from what's in the richness of your experiences, your relationships, and the wisdom you've gathered over a lifetime. Until next time, remember, don't try harder, try different.